The most underrated disc golf drivers in the game. I'm getting this one out of the way quickly because I recommend it to every player I ever encounter. If you know me, this is not a surprise. The Clash Discs Honey, a very understable distance driver that almost every recreational disc golfer should be able to turn out the box. And for everyone that will tell me their arm is too fast for this disc, I throw over 500 feet, and you know what my max distance disc is? The Honey. So don't talk to me about being too flippy. My favorite part of throwing the Honey is that I can put about 60% power on a slight hyzer, and this disc will fly and start to turn at the end of the flight, which gives me the disc an extra 50 feet of distance. I swear this disc will just float down the air. Now, I don't know what glide actually means, but this disc makes me understand. For those players stuck at throwing 375 feet, trying to break 400 feet consistently, looking for their next max distance disc, check it out. I think the natural turn will allow players to get more S-line shots that they are trying to obtain. For those players looking for a disc they can flip up in the woods to bend around weird trees at courses that seem to have no gaps, try the Honey. I've had the opportunity to play Maple Hill, W.R. Jackson, and New London, some of the most wooded courses in the world, and the disc that got me through was the Honey. Exactly for the reason I explained before. I can put this disc on so much hyzer and throw it hard, knowing it'll flip up, turning around trees, only to come back through even more trees. I'm not sure if the disc is a ninja or what, but it wants to fly all over the place, getting through the most impossible of gaps. I do have to admit that I've only thrown the prototype Honeys, but I'm sure the new ones fly the same. But just in case they don't fly like I say, it's totally the disc's fault. Now my recommendation. Remember that. You guys know me and how much I like my flippy discs. Because as much as I'm a noodle arm, you have to be honest with yourself and admit you are too. The Discmania Essence is a great disc for beginner disc golfers and up. Although it is only a fairway driver, I think that's a benefit for the disc because most disc golfers should stick to lower speeds. I don't like bringing up flight numbers, not because I'm a flight numbers guy, but because I do believe they can be misleading. But I also think disc golfers need to relax saying they are trash because they do give a good base before purchasing new discs, and anyone who denies that is lying. Discmania claims the Essence is a do-it-all fairway driver. It shines with its understable nature. It is especially ideal for players seeing their first distance driver, while seasoned pros will also find it valuable for a variety of shots. When faced with a technical hole on the course, the Essence is the disc you'll reach for. The problem I've had with the Essence in the past is that it can be touchy, but that's a common thing for understable disc. This discourages newer players. Although when players hit the ideal shot, it ends up being great, but if it goes bad, oh my, it goes bad. If there's ever a straight, narrow tunnel shot you need a dependable disc to fly straight with minimal fade, I recommend the Essence. Let's get off this flippy theme for just a second so I can avoid those comments that I pretend to read. The Infinite Disc Emperor is right in between a Honey and a Wraith if you ask me. Players who need a bit more turn on their distance driver, such as insert brand's name destroyer like disc here. Now don't make the mistake and get the Halo Double G version and angrily comment that it's beefy. Well, no shit, that's the point of the plastic. You did that to yourself, and also just wasted $25 on Infinite Disc Destroyer. The Emperor is a great disc that players can unleash all the power they want without having to sacrifice control. Granted, this disc still needs power in order to get it to achieve the intended flight, but if you can throw 400 feet or beyond, this disc might be a sneaky way to get more distance. You throw a Zeus, does it flip? If you said no, get yourself a Hades. They're like the same thing, but one fades and the other turns. If you bomb, this disc will be extremely flippy with massive amounts of glide that will go for days. Those with an intermediate arm will be able to achieve nice full flights with little effort. For beginners trying to make their way up to a distance driver, this is a good first step. For those thinking this disc is too flippy to throw far, all I say is tailwind, bombs, and hyzer. Yeah, wipe that stupid smile off your face. You shouldn't have been doubting me. If you like these recommendations, make sure to drop a sub. It helps the channel. An old school disc that still proves to be a straight flyer for any arm is the JLS by Millennium. Now, I don't know what it stands for, but if it's just laser straight, that's exactly what it is. This disc will fly long and straight. Wait a second. Nah, couldn't be. But if you want to be different from the crowd and feel like a disc golfer at the beginning of the century, check this disc out. And when people ask why you bag that random disc, just pump out a long straight flight and watch as their jaw drops in amazement. Now you could bag a Leopard, Crave, or any other straight flying fairway, but it'd be cooler to bag a JLS so everyone thinks you're crazier than the guy still putting with Wardens. The Castoplast Lutz, however you pronounce it, is described as a disc that whatever angle you put it on will hold. That's a good indicator for a great disc, mostly because that means everyone should be able to find some success. Although the disc flies more stable than the flight numbers suggest, the Lots is still a straight flying workhorse, a stable fairway driver that will produce a natural slight turn for most intermediate arm speed players with a consistent fade. One thing I want to highlight for disc golfers is if you just turn over discs and say the disc is being too understable, try slowing your arm speed down intentionally or add hyzer to flip the disc up and be amazed on your new unlocked skill set. If you hate my suggestion, that's fine, but for this disc, you can't hate on it because at least it'll look dope. The Thought Space Mantra will fly super straight at manageable speeds that even beginner players will have enough arm to get longer flights out of. More experienced players can use this disc for more accurate precision shots or even long anhyzer lines. But yet this disc is understable enough for players with decent arm speed to turn over for power rollers with relative ease. The Mantra is truly an all-purpose driver that players of all skill levels can work in their bag. Oh yeah, and did I mention that the stamps are dope? I did? Well, the stamps are dope. I don't bag any gyro molds, not for any reason besides not having a reason to get one in the first place. I mean, I tried the time lapse, but that's only because the new guy is on the team. But back in the day, the only disc I would claim to throw from Axiom was the Insanity. Mostly so I could say I'm going to throw something insane on this hole, just for it to be the same basic 9-speed disc that every brand has their own version. 14-year-old me thought that shit was funny as hell, so I bagged it. In reality, the disc is probably the least insane thing ever. Still good, don't get me wrong, but are we for real going to act like a slightly understable fairway driver is any crazier than white bread? It is underrated though, because the only Axiom disc I hear people raving over is the Crave. Why? It's the worst cereal anyone could buy. I was on the course the other day minding my own business, but the days of playing solo rounds are over for me. I've created so many friendships in the community everyone wants to toss around, and I'm always down to play, with anyone, which has been problematic. But I always have a story to tell, which is my favorite part. I was throwing my Destroyer on the holes where I could unleash actual bombs as my home course is, well, it's lame. Sorry, I love you, but after playing some of the greatest courses in the world, everything seems so lame. But as he was watching me throw, he asked what disc I was throwing, because he wanted to get one. After playing the front 9, I knew a Destroyer would not be the disc for him. But of course, I told him. He was thrilled to know we were throwing the same disc, and we bonded over the vast Destroyer selection we both bagged. After talking a bit, he grew angry, and soon the conversation turned into yelling at Innova about why his Destroyers were, as he claimed, broken. He didn't understand how mine would turn to the right and come back at the end and fly so much farther than his. I told him why not try another disc such as a Wraith or a Turn that would allow him to throw similar shots. That was a mistake. This man, who had to be 50 years or older, put his face about 5 inches away from my nose and made me realize how small 5 inches really was. Sorry to all my ex-girlfriends out there. He proceeded to yell in my face with a tone that was as angry as Nico Castro at someone who just called him on a time violation. But the best part was, and I swear this is what he yelled, "Mama ain't raised no Wraith throwing bitch." He threw his next shot into the tree. But hey, he wasn't a bitch, I guess. Oh, and at the end of the round, I gave him a blank stamp Turn I had in my trunk. And I told him it was a rare Destroyer, and he absolutely loved it. Get pranked, Harvey. Guy your ass. Well, those are some of the most underrated drivers I can think of. If you want a part 2, drop a like or comment about what you want to see next. I'll probably make it or something.